light of so many eager socialists serving in or running for office, I feel the need to talk about socialism. The essence of socialism is theft. Contrary to socialism, in America we have an absolute God-given right to property given to us by our Creator. We can find this right recorded in this sacred text. And God blessed them, and God said unto them, Be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth, and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth. This right to property is codified in constitutional law, clearly identified by the Fifth Amendment prohibition against theft. No person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. Unless you've committed a crime, your property is yours, and will remain yours, fully protected by government.
Hostile to this biblical American concept of private property, the goal of a socialist is to steal your money or your property and take it for himself. But a socialist is a little more sophisticated than a mugger or burglar. A socialist uses the government to do the otherwise dangerous work of stealing your property from you. A socialist uses the power of the state to force you to surrender your property. This is what Frederick Bastiat called legal plunder. In his book, The Law, Bastiat describes this process and asks the hard question we must ask ourselves. What do I do when those entrusted with enforcing the law use the law to break the law?
When I was growing up, socialism was a pejorative. To call somebody a socialist was to hurl an insult. Not anymore. Socialist propaganda is openly promoted and championed by both major parties. Both parties. How did this happen? Schools. Tragically, ever since the middle of the last century, the public schools have been indoctrinating America's children to accept and even demand socialist programs. Indeed, and in fact, this is precisely what the original architects of public schools designed it to do. The modern public school movement began in the 1840s by men like Robert Owen and Horace Mann, and was later continued by Robert Dale Owen and John Dewey. These men, by their own admission, were socialists and communists. But most people don't realize this. And many more folks know that it's true, but don't want to face it.
From their beginning, the schools were designed to steal your possessions by deceiving and robbing the minds of America's children, who will in turn give them your property. If you want to keep your possessions and your children, you might want to consider taking control of the education system. Declaration signer Dr. Benjamin Rush, also known as the father of public schools, said,
The only foundation for a useful education in a republic is to be laid in religion. Without this, there can be no virtue, and without virtue, there can be no liberty. And liberty is the object and life of all republican governments.
Like you, I prefer to keep my kids, my property, and my liberty. So I will be following the good doctor's advice. I encourage you to do the same. This is Jake MacAulay
and Dominic MacAulay
with the Institute on the Constitution, bringing you the American View.